Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the Manager Rumours show, if you like. We're going to be looking at all the managers that have been linked, and my God, there are a few since Carlo Ancelotti, of course, walked out on Everton yesterday to go back to Real Madrid. Everton need to find a replacement and faster in a Euro summer. Lots to be done, and a decision needs to be made as quickly as possible on who Carlo's successor is. And Terry, Owen and I are going to have a big discussion on this now, who we'd like to see, who we think might come in and debunk some of the potential rumours as well. Transfer rumours show 90% debunking most of the time. So we'll get straight into this anyway. We'll start with you.
That comes around more often than Christmas.
Start with you on this one, Owen. Who would you have?
I could say I wouldn't have a lot easier than who I would have.
Without a doubt.
There's so much to consider here, in my opinion. There's the team. People forget that Carlo Ancelotti just left the team on the pitch, and that team on the pitch was very comfortable playing in a certain way. In a pandemic season, I would probably suggest that there isn't too much money going around to change things on the pitch with personnel. There's a lot of imbalances. There's a lot of players that don't suit playing in too many different systems. There's the names being linked are sketchy, to say the least. I look around. For me, and people can have their own opinions on this. For me, the Everton's next manager, in my opinion, has to be someone who I would consider pragmatic, someone who would look at the squad and get the best out of it. Not people talk about philosophy, well, the philosophy should be a pragmatic one, in my opinion. A sort of a philosophy that allows Everton to compete and fight and make the fans feel part of the team, not necessarily by playing tiki-taka, but a team that'll give everything. And I think that should be the first protocol a manager's philosophy is to leave it out there on the pitch, put it this way, and a manager who can get results. I think we've had our fill, to be honest, of elite managers. Antonio Conte, people give me Antonio Conte, and I love Antonio Conte, but Antonio Conte will not come to Everton because he's a manager on the up. He's a manager who is extremely good at his job, and he's a manager, in my opinion, should have been the Real Madrid manager. So I don't think that's a possibility personally. Rafa Benitez's name gets bandied about, and I like the fit, but the problem being is with Rafa, he'll be 2 games away from the sack from day one. He loses to Owen to Wolves, and his job's on thin ice. I like Rafa, but I wouldn't have him. No, and yeah, if he wasn't the ex-Liverpool manager, then maybe I would consider it, because I do think there's some benefits to that. But he'd be 2 games away from the sack. Nuno, again, I like Nuno, but it's a risk as well. He's been indoctrinated in the Wolves recruitment process. He fucking won't get anything as well organised as that here. He's been used to a certain system there. Could he come into this Everton sort of shit show and make it his own? He seemed to me more of a head coach than someone who can. Everton fans want an identity. Nuno was, to me, a Wolf, someone who was more of a character that would lead the project as a coach rather than a manager. So I wouldn't mind him, but he's not someone who would be number one. Unai Emery, I would love Unai Emery, but again, I don't think Unai Emery would consider Everton having just won the Europa League. And then there's a whole David Moyes. Look, he's done brilliantly with West Ham, but I'm not
leave West Ham to come back here.
He's going to sign a new contract, in my opinion, and I'm not keen on going back to a manager we had for 11 years. I think that story has been told. Then you go and Big Dunc. I like having Big Dunc around the coaching staff, and it would probably break me to see Big Dunc get the sack of Everton, and that's what it would lead to ultimately. So I'd like to see him sticking around it. There's other managers people linked to Everton in terms of more of a different style, maybe. So Gallardo, I like the sound of Gallardo, but again, I would consider it, but again, it isn't for me where I'm judging it as the remit who I think would get the best out of Everton stylistically. Paulo Fonseca is a big no for me. Lucien Favre is a good manager. He's an overachiever at clubs he goes to, at a level to Everton. But then again, I think people look at that as like he's been at this club and that club and that. They're similar to Everton, so we do well here. I don't think Everton have Lucien Favre players. And then we're going to manager who I would consider no marks, like Graham Potter and Eddie Howe. Steven Gerrard, no. Wayne Rooney, no. So for me, if you're asking me a sort of realistic / I think good fit / I'd be intrigued to see happen. For me, my choice would be Sean Dyche.
I was expecting that one too. I was about to say you haven't mentioned him yet, so.
I was leading up to why the rest of the managers wouldn't work, and then I was leading up to the one I would personally want as Everton manager. But again, what do I know? Terry.
I personally wouldn't mind. Terry, who would you go with?
The same as Owen. I don't know who I want. Well, he does know various, reasons, like Nuno Espirito Santo. I think he's a good manager, but goods about it. He was in a very tailor-made system at Wolves. He would have to fend for himself a little bit more at Everton. You do know exactly what you're going to get with him, in terms of like his style and his setup. Maybe some of our squad would suit that, some of it wouldn't. I don't think. I don't think any of our midfielders have got a switch of play in them. Never mind, he'd have to be bringing in a load of new centre midfielders. So it's underwhelming. I said in the last video, every single person we're going to be linked with, barring something coming out of the blue, is going to be underwhelming because we've just had a superstar manager and he's left us. We haven't sacked him. He walked out abruptly. So doesn't mean no one else will do well or we can't even get better, but it won't feel like that for ages until we start seeing it. The names, David Moyes rebuilt his reputation at West Ham a little bit now, but as Owen said, his story at Everton's been told. For me, don't go back. We went back to the most successful manager in our history, and I don't think it was right then with Howard Kendall.
It didn't work either time. But also, it's worth noting that Everton just stepped down from West Ham at the moment.
I don't think one season makes that. I'm sorry, Everton will never be a step down from West Ham, especially for the manager.
Not in terms of stature and that, but where the clubs are at the moment,
they're definitely in better nick than us. But David Moyes loves Everton, and he's based up here, etc., and so on. Rafael Benitez, same thing Owen said. I think he'd be probably a good fit to take over straight from Carlo. I think he could continue the sort of builds that Carlo was doing. I think they're similar enough managers in terms of style, if nothing else. But he's ex-Liverpool, and not just ex-Liverpool. If he didn't have a house in, is it the Whittle or West Kirby or whatever, would he even be getting linked? Jamie Carragher seems hell bent on getting him into Everton to get him back in his house for some reason.
Carragher was an estate agent.
Yeah, I probably he's not out of work. He's probably already there. But I think personally he'd be a good fit and be a good manager for us. With what our squad is and the work Ancelotti's done for 18 months. I think he'd fit right in. But football is an emotional game, and he'd only be one bad result away from losing the fans and the fans turning on him. And our fans are not ones you can ignore if they turn on you. Who else? Eddie Howe and Graham Potter, do me a favour.
No
pair
shot.
of absolute bums. Like, honestly, no.
Sorry, I don't know half the managers Terry just named. Then I finished on Rafa Benitez. I got cut out. To be fair to Greg,
the two antichrists, so basically.
Yeah, I just called them two a pair of bums. Like, if someone asked me, like, could you have Graham Potter, Eddie Howe, as number one? At number one, I'm like, yeah, I think both of them could drive that bus, like, but not as the Everton manager.
No, I was about to say, to be fair to Graham Potter, I would prefer him over Eddie Howe. Just
absolutely.
No, but it's on absolutely. It's on like thin ice, like. But
Steven Gerrard, come on now.
Don't even go there. Do not even go there.
Wait, he hates us. He hates us. We hate him. We sang songs about his kids. We're never going to ever see Steven Gerrard in an Everton dugout. And plus, even if we hadn't done that, he's waiting for the Liverpool job and, whatever, do your own thing. It's none of our business to be getting involved in that or even speaking to him. The other managers, I can see them going for Fonseca because he was approached when we were after Marco Silva. Whether, I don't know about Fonseca, but he was on the list, so I can see us going for him again.
He's had a wretched season with Roma, and that's a good Roma team as well. It's not like the junk we've got.
Yeah, he's only ever on Ukraine, so not for me.
We're obviously looking at managers who are readily available. Real Madrid didn't do that. Like, they just went and got a manager who seemed like he was cemented into a club. And I know they're Real Madrid and they can attract most managers. They're only not bullying teams who are on their, the same rung of the food chain as them. But we're higher than a lot of clubs on the food chain. So why don't we have a look around? Look for a man. I don't know who it could be, but we don't always have.
To be fair, Terry, the manager I want couldn't be more firmly set in a club. So, I mean, it's not like I'm looking for unemployed managers.
Sean Dyche could be a good fit, but is he high status enough for Ancelotti? Not Ancelotti, for Managerial. Yeah, is he high enough status for Managerial? And I don't mean he needs to be a Hollywood manager. Like, Managerial might think he can get a bigger name, and whilst that's a bit ridiculous, it is, something we have to think about. He might think he can go and get someone from, a top team abroad. There's other, good managers in other leagues. I don't know whether we're going to one of them, the Porto manager, Sergio Conceição?
Conceição, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we interview him. I think he's exotic enough for people who've not even heard of him or seen him to be happy with him. Sam Allardyce and all that. Like, I think he'll probably be approached. But I don't know. I just know I don't want some of the names that have been mentioned now.
But for me, I think my one would have been Christophe Galtier, and that's why I'm so upset about Ancelotti doing the dirty on us, because if obviously Galtier looks like he's going to Nice now. If Ancelotti was decent enough to let the club know he was planning on leaving, which I think he was, we could have had the feelers out for these kind of managers, and now it looks like we're going to miss out. And that's why Carlo has been incredibly scummy, I think, with this.
There's some strange things, isn't there? Like last week or a week ago, you saw David Ancelotti's partner saying goodbye to it, Jim, and all of a sudden at the end of last week, Richarlison's putting a tweet that looks weird in hindsight now of just Ancelotti and him hugging. Makes you wonder, did some of them know before ahead of time? Like,
I mean, it looked as if they all knew when they lost 5-0 to City, but in all honesty, mate, I just think if this was true, and I think Carlo's head's been turned about, I'd say at least a month. I reckon since the end of April, start of May, we're talking. I reckon his head's been turned. And if that was the case, he should have told the club that. Because if that's the case, that gives, courteous to our club. And if he does leave, then we have the chance to put the feelers out for replacements. Now we might have wanted Galtier to succeed him, but he's gone to Nice before we can even look at him. Other clubs are in more advanced stages of looking for their manager than we are, because we've just been screwed over in the last minute. And that's why Ancelotti has been a scumbag in this case, let's be honest. He's completely stabbed us in the back.
There isn't a candidate for me who I look at and think they're perfect. I just look and I just can think of so many reasons why I wouldn't have most people. I just look at Dyche and think, I think he would probably build an identity within the club.
He's a steady manager.
Yeah, he wouldn't rock the boat too much in terms of Everton wouldn't struggle next season if Sean Dyche was the manager. But I think he would also, people underestimate the amount of young players he's brought through at Burnley because they haven't had much money to spend. So he would be on board with that kind of thing. He would have to adapt in the transfer market. I get that. And he'd probably have to adapt some of his sort of philosophies in the way we would have to play our own to some teams. But I still look and I think that if we're going to a manager who is domestic at the moment, who's in the Premier League, I'd be looking at Dyche over Howe, Potter, and Nuno personally.
Absolutely.
Tell you who I don't want. I didn't even mention him in the rundown of names because that's how little I take it seriously. Duncan Ferguson. Like you mentioned him, and I'm sorry, Evertonians put years on me wanting Duncan Ferguson. Now I love Duncan Ferguson. He was my first ever favourite player, but I'm sorry, Premier League clubs are Formula One cars. You cannot drive a Formula One car with a provisional license. Like you can't. Oh, I've been a coach for 7 years, and it doesn't matter how good he is. He can't just go to being nothing to managing a Premier League team. I think it's laughable that Arteta's doing that at Arsenal. Like, no. If you want to manage a top Premier League club, and I don't mean that, we've been around the whole time. I don't mean you could get in for one season, you could manage Norwich and they'll go back down and come back up kind of thing. You want to manage an established Premier League club, you need to have something to back yourself on.
Stripes.
You've got to have cut your teeth somewhere. You've got to learn, and I don't want no learning on the job manager at this club. We should be, for our next manager. It might not always be the case with players, but our managers should always be. This should be a destination, not a stepping stone. We've lost sight of that, and I think that's what we thought we had with Ancelotti because he'd been in everywhere where you could use stepping stones to get to. That this was his final sort of job, apart from maybe a little one in Italy when he was 80s or whatever. I thought this was going to be his last big European job. And I think he did as well. I think that's why he talked the talk when he came in. I want managers who come here and go, I am at a massive club and I'm going to prove myself here. Don't want a mouse like keep saying Ancelotti, like Silva, who couldn't front up any criticism in any press or anything like that. Klopp's running on the pitch and he's just going, that's fine. It's a passionate game. And when he's getting criticised by the media, he doesn't fight back or anything. And when VAR are not overturning blatant penalties that shouldn't be a penalty. And I want a manager with personality. I want a manager with bottle, and I want a manager who wants to establish himself at Everton. I don't want a manager who wants to come in and says, well, I'll get a job if I come here and do well. And I don't want a manager who's learning.
There we go then. So everything you've just named, Dyche. I would still say Sean Dyche backs order. I don't think Sean Dyche would get a bigger job in England than Everton.
No, I if it was Dyche, I wouldn't be upset. But I just don't think
I wasn't. For me, that's the least worst.
I don't think the club will appoint Sean Dyche. I don't have a problem with it myself. I think he'd do a good job, and I think he'd be, this is going to sound bizarre, I think it'd be one of the more seamless transitions in terms of style from Ancelotti. Certainly not in star power, and it's not going to. Can't see James Rodriguez taken to him, put it that way, but I don't think he'll take to anyone.
That's good. That's good. I want him as out now, to be honest.
Under Dyche.
But I just think the defensive sort of groundwork that Carlo built into these players, I think Dyche could pick that up and do something with it in the set pieces and what have you. I think it wouldn't be a hard reset to go to Sean Dyche. It'd just be a bit of a climb down in terms of fairy dust. But that might not be what we need. That might be what we need to sort of come off the fairy dust a little bit.
We definitely don't need fairy dust, mate. We need steel. We need big steel girders. That's what we need in this team.
I've got memes on my phone. I've got memes on my phone of him as Thanos and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I'd be happy to use them after every win.
There will be people that there will be people in the comments on this, and people who quote tweet and who airing this who go, "I want him." What you be a bit more open minded and listen to the high performance podcast with Jake Humphreys and another guy whose name I forgot, but he'd interviewed Dyche, and his ideas on the game and the way he looks at it is so advanced.
Yes, I think a lot more forward thinking than people give him credit for.
You would probably be surprised having listened to it. If you actually listen to it and extended it, there's loads on YouTube with Dyche, you'd probably think a bit different. and you'd probably definitely think he'd be a better fit than the likes of Howell, Potter, and probably Nuno.
No, I'd have Dyche over any of those by a mile. And the more I'm thinking about it, we're going to be disappointed. Yeah, we'll be disappointed no matter what, I think. But for me, Sean Dyche is the least worst.
Yeah.
Have we even been linked to Sean Dyche? Is that what you're thinking? Because if he's not,
the Express.
If he's not in the thinking, but Eddie Howe is, I'm going to lose my mind.
Eddie Howe will cry as soon as one of our fans boos.
I know. Well, I've got thick skin for that one. I've already blocked everyone who's moaned about Dyche on Twitter. Don't you worry. That's where the 200 comes into play.
Oh, honest to God, mate. Eddie Howe is going to be like John Stones that time when he was threatening to leave and he cried in a service station. Literally lose one away game and the fans will just corner him in a service station and he'll just cry his eyes out.
I think the only time he's been offered is to go to Burnley and then he ran back in about 6 months.
He could not act at Burnley. And lo and behold, either side, that was a Sean Dyche.
There we go.
I'd have Dyche over Howe in a heartbeat. Martinez. We haven't even touched on Martinez. I don't really want to.
Sorry, one place linked us with Marco Silva again, who hasn't had a job since we sacked him.
Tapped, isn't it? Football is so tapped. The football media clinically insane. I mean, I know they're trying to probably just rub it into us a bit because it's Sky, but let's be honest, it's just tapped. Even fights aren't that daft to buy into that.
Who's that geezer? Who's the Iranian goalkeeper coach? Ali Dai or something that was linked a couple of months ago.
Oh, Ali Dai, the Iranian striker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was meant to come in and be a scout or something and then just disappeared. Maybe it isn't.
Imagine Mashid just hires the best. Ali Dai is probably the best Iranian footballer of all time. So, I can imagine Mashiri just going to bring him in to be some sort of Iranian showpiece.
Ali Dai and Sean Dyche should be in the Everton reception. Neither of them will have a fucking clue each other.
Really, honest to God, it's just some of the names that have been reeled off. We've gone through a few. Like I said, I was like Galtier, but we're not going to get him. He's gone to Nice. I loved him. Erik ten Hag, we haven't really touched on him. What's your take on him?
Yeah, same him and Sarri. I think the style, the Sarri, I'll touch on Sarri first. I like Sarri a lot, but I think his style takes too long to adapt and he doesn't stay at a club more than 2 years. So no to him just for that reason. Ten Hag, he's never managed outside of Holland. I think if we were going for a progressive route and we were going to go fully with the director of football and let him choose, then yeah, I'd go at Ten Hag, but it'd be a risk. And the last one, Ralph Rangnick, who I don't think's ever been
I was just about to mention him.
Never been successful as a manager, but he's been a good director of football. I wouldn't risk Ralph Rangnick. I'm sure he was 10 years ago when Moyes left.
He was, yeah. He was indeed. As was Vitor Pereira, whose name
Vitor Pereira's our Peter Modern wing. He just stands outside the training grounds every 18 months asking for a job.
Honest to God, no. How's his name back on the list of all the bookies odds?
He's probably had about 3 clubs since we've last changed managers.
I'm not even met him while we're here. I'm actually going to look up who Vitor Pereira's just been on the dole for the past 8 years.
And just before you're looking for that, I'm on Sarri and Ten Hag going, you think managers with that style of play are going to come and see these players? And Ten Hag used to play in Ajax players and Sarri's used to Sarri ball, isn't he? The two of them, if they came here, would grow hair again just so they could go balls again. Honestly, we'd end up killing the two of them, either of them, because imagine how frustrated they'd be when they see Michael Keane marauding out from the back trying to take on whole midfields by himself. And
no,
Andre Gomez. Ten Hag would have a heart attack.
People would love their managers, and I can understand why they are good to watch, but I just don't think it's a fit for this team. I'll say it again, and I think the least worst option in terms of what we can do right now, in terms of what we can affect. Not that it will happen. I think for what the club needs and what I think would suit him and what would ultimately develop from it, I think Sean Dyche would be someone I would look at.
I'd definitely consider Dyche. I hope the management, like the owners and the board, are considering that, but
I doubt it.
I have no confidence. That is the problem here, mate. We're discussing some good managers, some rubbish managers as well, but I have no confidence in the sport.
Anyone who threw Jurgen Klopp on his toes in the tunnel, mate, is fine by me.
He's had a few runs to Klopp, apparently.
Has he?
Get him in.
Yeah, he has. It was another interview. He was speaking to the Wickham striker, Hakan Fenbar, in an interview, and he said, I've had a lot of run-ins with Klopp.
Get Dyche ball at Goodison.
Yeah, Dyche really doesn't like Klopp. We've seen that meme where he's squaring off in the tunnel.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah,
so I mean, is Vitor Pereira's career since not getting the Everton job?
He's probably had about 6 clubs since.
Yeah, he's had 5 clubs, and they are Al Ahly in Saudi Arabia.
5 clubs, won the last year.
He was Olympiacos manager, sacked, and replaced by Marco Silva.
Well, there you go, then.
Then they actually thought Marco Silva is a better manager than him. Fenerbahce, he's managed. Then he managed 1860 Munich. And then Shanghai, whatever, what's the face in the Chinese Super League? He's managed them for
Shanghai, yeah.
Shanghai, no, the other one, Shanghai SIPG.
He's had
an anagram of pigs.
He's had more clubs than Roy Hodgson, and he's only about 28, isn't he?
He'll feel like he's 58 by the time he's managed those. He's only 50. He's 52.
I'll be 58 having watched him in the Everton dugout.
I'll be 58 no matter who's in the Everton dugout, honest to God. The state of this club. Oh yeah, we haven't even mentioned Lamps yet. When all the media will be falling over themselves for that one.
I'm sure Harry Redknapp will be on Sky as we speak, promoting him for the job.
Oh, he's terrific. But yeah,
couldn't get a tune out of that Chelsea team, mate. You think he's going to come here and get a tune out of any of our players?
No.
Oh, right. So we'll leave it at this anyway.
I think it will probably be Nuno.
You think it's going to be Nuno? What about you, Terry? Who do you reckon?
Yeah, if you had to come to me,
I don't know who it's going to be. I just don't think it'll be Nuno. I think Nuno will go to Palace, and I think we'll get someone who hasn't been mentioned yet.
I hope so. There's not many people who've been mentioned yet.
I think Farhad and Alisher.
Who would you appoint, Terry? Going, if you were in the boardroom now, devastated at the loss of Carlo, who would you appoint?
Who was I like to appoint, or who am I realistically going to get?
Realistically,
Sean Dyche.
All right. What about you, James?
I don't think Conte is a realistic option.
I think Conte would be the one, but I don't like.
Yeah,
like Terry says, not realistic. Also, I don't think I'd take to Conte, even though he is an elite manager. He's a 3 at the back shagger, and I'm not really a fan of.
No.
I'm not really you know how much I despise 3 at the back formation. So
we have been moaning about it for the last 12 months. I will give you that.
Yeah, and Ronald Koeman did it as well, and that was the death knell for Koeman before any of the debacle in the second season.
Mate, I couldn't tell you what formation he played, and he was here 18 months.
The formation was basically an arrow toward Barcelona.
I'm old now to the thought that Farhad and Uncle Alisher this summer will try and pull off another one like they did with Ancelotti, and they'll speak to some very high-profile managers on a big Uzbekistan yacht, and we might end up with someone like that. That might not even be the good thing to do, but I think it will happen. I think they'll.
Unfortunately, that is how Mashiri and if Usmanov's involved, that's how they seem to be operating.
I think
that person has the first name Diego.
Well, maybe not him, but I think we'll speak to some high-profile names on the top of the yacht before we arrive inevitably on Sean Dyche.
Yeah, well,
I will not care the slightest. If we get Dyche, I will be relieved. I will actually be relieved if we get Dyche, because he's comfortably out of all these names we've reeled off, besides the elite ones, your Contes and your Simeones, whatever. I think he is the one. He's the least worst. He's the one who I think will do the best job for Everton. And will commit to Everton as well.
Yeah, I don't think he'd look to go beyond Everton, because mainly the top six wouldn't touch him or badge pole, because of his sort of demeanour and that. I think he'd like the feel around the club. I think it would be a good stepping stone for him. I feel like he would think the style probably fits in terms of what we've been playing, and it's a good enough step up. I don't think he would consider Palace enough of a step up, to be honest, at the moment. And I just think it would be a nice fit. Plus, I really like him, so I'm biased.
Yeah, there's a lot of Dyche bias.
If he fails in 18 months, he'll be sacked, and he'll be managing England not long after it. So,
or just go back to Burnley and we'll start again.
That's what happens. You got sacked at Watford and went straight back.
Fails at us, he'll be the England manager, because Southgate will get launched, and he'll have been at a bigger club then, and so he'll be considered. And you could be shit at Everton, you get a top club international job. Remember?
Yeah, that's how you get to manager, can't you?
Boy, he's just failed in his last job. Where was it? Everton. Not well. Doesn't count.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is a real cause for concern. We haven't really touched on is that these managers are still considered, because I think everyone realises that people are doing well here in spite of the mess that's above them.
I just think it shows how poor the manager pool is at the minute, that these managers who failed spectacularly at Everton are turning up in decent jobs. But the fact that imagine being told 15 years ago that someone would bomb at Everton, gets sacked by Everton, and his next club management job would be in Barcelona.
Mad, innit?
You wouldn't have thought that.
One last thing to touch on is that it is. I think the standards of managers have declined since the golden era, like the 90s and the 2000s. It's not the same.
Did you say the managers have dropped since O'Neill in the 90s?
The managers.
The golden
era. Definitely not O'Neill. O'Neill.
No, the golden era.
Oh, don't even get me started on that one. We're finishing on that bombshell anyway. Anyway, guys, there we go. We'll finish up with our manager discussion. Owen's absolutely doubled up there, so I'll leave him there. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Toffee Blues. Get us your comments in. Let us know your opinions. Who would you like as manager? Who would you most certainly not like as manager? Get your opinions in. Let us know what you'd like to see happen next. God knows no one has a clue, but we can all dream. Give us a like as well and subscribe for more content as we, bring you more updates on what's going on the manager front in the next few weeks. Definitely get involved and keep looking out for news. I'm sure you're all refreshing your Twitter feed. So, keep your comments coming in. Let us know what you think. And thanks for tuning in on the Toffee Blues. We'll see you next time.